Good evening. I'm coming to you tonight from the place where I'm standing, which is here. And I did not forget my microphone. The story of tonight's event is that it is happening. And what is happening is this. The cast of a television show is reuniting. And that television show whose cast is reuniting is Knight Rider. Just kidding, just kidding. That was a joke I made and not a serious answer. The serious answer is Parks and Recreation. I'm holding for your applause and you seem to be done. And so I will continue speaking. Now, the entire cast is here, which is appropriate because they were the people who appeared on the show. So true. And now, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's bring out a different person. A person who will be your host for the evening, and that person is named Patton Oswalt.
Oh my God. Yes, thank you. Heard happily, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, yes. Oh my goodness. Thank you guys for coming. Interior Millennium Falcon. Wolverine is fighting with HR Pufnstuf. Oh, I lost the other 17 pages. Folks, thank you guys so much. This is the second time that I've hosted the Parks and Recreations panel at the Paley. Let's bring them out, shall we? As April Ludgate, please welcome Aubrey Plaza. Wow. She did that for luck. As Andy Dwyer, Chris Pratt, ladies and gentlemen. Someone's getting their Fitbit points tonight. As Tom Haverford, Aziz Ansari. As Ann Perkins, Rashida Jones. As Leslie Knope, Amy Poehler. As Ron Swanson, Nick Offerman. Thank you. Wow. As Ben Wyatt, Adam Scott. as Donna Meagle Retta. As Chris Traeger, Rob Lowe. The co-creator, showrunner, and executive producer, Michael Schur. And as Jerry Gergich, Jim O'Hare. You guys all already know what a fan I am of this show, how much I loved getting to see, basically, and I've said this before, this show was like getting to see a free 22-minute, like perfect Tom McCarthy film every single week on network TV. It was such a richly drawn world. Did you, I mean, clearly, Michael, when you started out, did you know that you were going to be expanding and creating the kind of universe that you did? Did you have, was this your goal, obviously, when you started the show, or were you going to keep it contained, but then it just kept growing?
Well, first of all, this is awesome. Thank you all for coming. No, obviously we didn't know, we certainly didn't know we were going to get to expand it to the level that it expanded to. We thought we were getting canceled like all the time. So like, but the goal, when Greg Daniels couldn't be here tonight, he has a little note we'll read later. He couldn't be here, he's in Vancouver shooting. But when he and I set out to create the show, the idea was, he had adapted The Office, and The Office was a fictional business, and so we decided to do, there was private sector, so we decided to do fictional public sector. And then immediately it became like, oh, if this lasts for a while, it can be a whole world. It can be, if we're going to invent a fake town, and we'll have a fake government, and we'll have people who come to these meetings, and we'll have newscasters, we'll get Purred Happily types, and and so that it was the dream. The dream was to just build it out and to keep seeing the same people kind of cycle through. We never imagined that it would be on for 7 years and that we would actually get to do that. And by the time we were done, we had all these, like, just hundreds and hundreds of people. It was like, it became like The Simpsons, where there were these minor characters.
Yes.
Who just, at any moment, you can just go, oh, this is perfect for Joan Calamezzo or whoever to come in. Yeah. So the fact that we actually got to, the show stayed on the air long enough for us to get to that point is just a crazy fever dream. I can't believe it happened.
Yeah, it is almost, in some ways, even more than The Simpsons. You have the geography of this town in your head, and at any given time, you would flash onto, oh, Kirk Fox's sewage trash man character must be dealing with the aftermath of this scene that I'm like, you knew who was going to have to deal with. So I want to start with Amy on this and then kind of go to everyone. How much input did you have in your characters once they were written and once you began performing them? You guys clearly kept bringing different things to these characters. They're all so alive and real. So how much input did you have along those lines?
I think we all got a lot of freedom to really play around and expand and dig into who we were playing. But I do think that also we brought a lot of ourselves, I think, to a lot of these characters, because we really had to play things quite real, being it like a documentary style. So I think there was a real combination of characters already on the page, thought of and written, and then whoever was kind of wearing the suit filled it out, but I'm just, I'm totally overwhelmed.
We thought there'd be like 40 people here. Is like Cat Williams coming later or something?
Yeah, there's no band or anything.
Yeah. I mean, I remember reading an interview with you, Nick, where you said that you met someone that you based Ron Swanson on. It was someone that either saw, interviewed, or you interacted with, who basically was Ron Swanson, and you kind of brought a lot of that. It was a guy that kind of didn't like government, or kind of hated his job or something, or?
No, Mike and Greg, when they were creating the show, met with a government official in Burbank, and that's all I'm allowed to say, who, her name is Julie, Julie S.
Julie S.
No, that you're gonna find her. Her name is Jay Stevenson.
Got it. That's fine.
They found a city official who was a libertarian and who hated the government, and that was the impetus. And it was a woman, interestingly, and that was the impetus for Ron Swanson's stance.
Well, we did a lot of research, and we said to this woman, let us ask you a question. Like, we have this design of a character who is in the government, but is a libertarian and literally wants to, like, bring the government, like, down to the ground. Like, literally at the level of, like, at one point, Ron Swanson has a talking head where he says he wants to get rid of stoplights. So we said to her, we were like, is that insane? Is that too crazy? And she was like, no, I'm a libertarian. And we said, really? And she went, yeah, I'm aware of the irony. And so we were like, all right, well, that didn't exist, and that's all we needed. But to your question, though, I would say, especially for both of those two there in the middle, like that, their characters, their Venn diagram of who they are as people, and this is true for everybody, of who they are as people and who their characters are. It's not a one circle, but it overlaps a lot. And Ron Swanson became Ron Swanson because the writers took a trip to Nick's real life wood shop where he was making things with his hands and arms, just like making things. Yeah, and like he was like, well, here's the canoe I just built, and we were like, and we all felt very weak. We felt very weak and frail, and this gentleman here, when I met with him to talk about him coming on the show, he had just been part of a group of people who had bought into the Miramax library.
That's right.
And I said, how does that happen? Like, how do you become a person who is the kind of person who can buy Miramax? And he said, I'll tell you the story. I was literally on a yacht in Cyprus. And so, like, at the time, before that sentence, Chris Traeger didn't exist. Yeah. And then he said I was literally on a yacht in Cyprus, or whatever he said. My mind went blank. And then after that, that was what Chris Traeger was.
Wow.
When I wrapped the show, Mike gave me such a great gift, and I have it framed in my office. And it's your notes that Mike wrote after that first meeting with me. And I always wondered how much of Chris was me and how much of Chris was Mike. And in your notes, it's let's see, I almost said it.
Yeah.
I wish it was more of a semicircle.
It says, he says literally all the time.
That's right. Well, then there's a question for you, Rob, and for Adam Scott. You came onto the show later, onto a very established universe and a lot of established relationships. So what was that like? Again, this is one of the most deeply realized group of characters, and then for you guys to fit into that world the way that you did, what was that process like?
That was crazy because I remember very clearly waiting outside the doors to the hallway
Totally,
of the
right?
Parks Department.
Yep.
Rob and I waiting outside the doors to be cued to come in for when we come in and start kind of pointing out.
Because our first scene was our first
We
scene.
meet Amy and Nick and stuff. And I remember waiting out there for the PA to point to us to walk in and just being like, holy shit, okay, all right. Rob Lowe is standing right there. And I'm now like on this show that I watched the show, so now I was inside the show. I just had to get out of my head and stop thinking about Rob Lowe and being inside of a TV show.
Had you never acted before?
So it was very scary.
Now, Chris and Aubrey, April and Andy's relationship. So real and organic, and also, you know, Rashida early on. Again, I'm talking about it as if these were people that I knew. Like, oh my God, she used to go out with him, but then I the last person that I ever would have thought. But how organic was that process of you guys realizing that oh no, those characters are going to go in the direction that they're going? It almost felt like those characters broke out of the script and lived their own lives. It was a really interesting to watch that overall in the show. Do you remember what that was like, or?
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Did you hear what he said?
Want to talk about it? I don't.
Well, I do remember that there was an episode where everyone was hunting. And
Yeah.
and that was I didn't get to go. And
Yeah, that's great.
and we had to stay back, and it was really the B story that they were cutting back to as you know, everyone was off at this hunting lodge, and I think someone gets shot, and it's super hilarious. But they kept cutting back to us just manning the parks department, and really it was like it was like a chemistry reading during the making of the show. And so I think we just really got along, and it was like this cat and a dog kind of fall in love type of a relationship. And you know, I don't know, remember that?
It was my idea.
Oh, okay.
That's true.
Yeah. Now, and I know
You
that
guys are just like your characters, right? This was like watching a take from the show. It's so weird.
From what I remember, and I really don't remember like anything. There was an episode before, I think it was the finale of the first season, where we were in a group huddle or something.
Eating a cake.
Eating a cake.
Yeah. Maybe?
Sure. And
I know that we had cake in the last episode.
Yeah.
So.
sure, you remember that. And there was something about you were talking.
about my- I was talking about my band.
You were talking about your band, and you were trying to describe the kind of music, and the whole time I was just going like, I'm into this. Whatever he's saying, I'm into this. I understand exactly what he's saying, and every
Yeah.
other character was like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
And something
I
like
think
that.
the idea, well, it came from like maybe the instinct was, you know, Andy's music was so terrible, and
Yeah.
nobody should like it. And in the spirit of irony that sort of dominates her persona, I think she chose to be like, no, I really like that music.
Yeah.
Because that's the last thing in the world you would expect from me, is to like this guy or this guy's music. And then And then I was like, that's cool. She likes my music.
Yeah, no, it wasn't hard for April.
Oh, stop.
Yeah.
And now, two things about the show that must have felt very surreal while you were doing it were the things that were, some of which were almost done as throwaway jokes that have kind of entered the vernacular and have entered reality. Treat yourself and, yeah. Yeah. And Galentine's Day. I even think there's certain people that I see on Instagram that are these weird fitness gurus, and it's just Chris Traeger. They watch this character and go, and they're building multi-million-dollar empires. How did that feel when a thing, the Swanson Pyramid of Excellence, people like post that all the time. Like, how does it feel when that kind of gets away from you and becomes a reality people are living in?
Dude, I've been doing this a long time, and it took me being on the show to finally get a catchphrase. And I was so excited. It's like, it's my version of what you talking about, Willis.
Yeah. Exactly.
And
yeah.
it's I think someone told me that again, I almost said it. They literally they changed, do you know this, that they had to change the definition?
Yeah. This is true. Webster's dictionary changed the definition of the word literally to mean either literally or figuratively.
Oh my God.
Those are the two definitions of the word literally.
Which, Mike Schur,
I have to say,
I've known you for a very long time, since college, and your pet peeve is when people use literally as figuratively.
Yeah,
so you made your worst nightmare happen.
I will also say, I don't know how you feel, Polar, but we all, I think, take a great deal of pride in the idea that, like, Galentine's Day is a thing that people know about. But for some reason this year, it kind of bummed me out because, like, I would go on Twitter and it would be like, hey, ladies, this Galentine's Day, why not share a Mountain Dew Code Red with your friend? And I was like, what does that have to do with Galentine's Day? Like, it was like appropriated by every brand now, and it a little bit bummed me out because it was like, I feel like maybe.
Try walking into Target and all you see is shit yourself,
it's
and you don't get shit from it.
You two should literally get like 31 cents every time anyone says treat yourself.
Yeah, it's obnoxious. someone sent me a mug like with an owl, and it was like Crate and Barrel, and I was like, what the fuck? Barrel too? Yeah. I mean, God bless.
And then the other thing, beyond stuff from the show, kind of leaving the show and existing in the world now, is, and I'm sure you've been interviewed about this all the time because I've seen articles about it all the time, how horrifyingly predictive this show was to our current situation. Is that a pleasant sensation, or is it like, oh dear God, maybe, like how does that, if you basically, you called the 2016 election, for God's sakes.
Didn't you call World Series?
Explain yourself, Amy.
The Cubs was a good.
The Cubs was good. Okay, that was good.
That was insane. The Cubs was the bright spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if only we had Bobby Newport at the helm. I would be fine with that. I would be fine with that. Yeah, I mean, someone asked me in the press line about Leslie Knope, do we need her now? And I do kind of feel like she's kind of like the Spider-Man of public service. It is a little bit, it does feel a little bit like you're looking up into the sky like, Leslie, where are you?
Yeah.
It does feel that way, like an actual person who, fights for the underdog. And believes that people can work together and treats people with respect, all that stuff. Like that is her motto and her creed, and it is. I kind of do wish she was around, but she would not be able to have any access to the White House, probably. I don't know, but I don't know. I think it was a. And remember, we started the show post-Obama.
Right.
It was very, a very hopeful, optimistic time for a lot of us, believing that change could happen and that, the face of our president was so different and our world was going to be different. And so we were starting that show at such a different time. It would be really interesting to be starting it now. I don't know. Or great, or the same. I'm not sure, but. Yeah.
And then, of course, the other big thing that I'm sure a lot of us thought about watching the two Firefest documentaries was Tom Haverford and John Ralphio. I mean, my God. It is, and pardon me, it is literally you guys' company, but real.
We're
But real.
that like
Whoa, entertainment.
there's so many things like when I'm like, oh, like that seems like something Mike and the writers would have come up with. Like Tom and John Ralphio were definitely buddies with Billy McFarland. And then like the other day I was reading about like that college admission scandal. It's like that's some Eagleton shit for sure.
Oh my God.
One of the Firefest documentaries just used clips from.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It was just you two ding-dongs in a big white room, like playing basketball with Detlef Schrempf and Roy.
It's sorry, I gotta say this. It's literally Entertainment 720.
Yes.
That was like the thing. I remember when we went into film in the Entertainment 720 offices, there was like a video of a yacht, and I was like, what's this? It's just like, it's just footage of a yacht. That's what those guys did.
Yeah. They did. It's almost like, it's like they watched the episode and went, oh yeah, we could do, like in their mind,
Yeah.
it was a blueprint. They didn't see it as a,
Here's the plan.
oh my gosh.
Yeah, if Tom and John Ralphio, like, they could have gotten Ja Rule. Like,
Yes.
They, you know what I mean?
Yes.
They could have found their way to Ja Rule and been like, we're golden, we got this.
Now, Jim. Maybe the most zen character on television, just literally absorbing and levitating through abuse. It was just how, and I did love. There's an episode where I'm such a nerd for the show. I'm so sorry, but there's the episode where Ron Swanson and Chris Traeger have the cook-off of the two hamburgers, and they revealed that Jerry has a Jerry. You have a guy that you abused.
Yeah.
What was
Absolutely.
his name again?
Kyle.
Yeah.
Kyle.
Yeah, and you're like, would you shut up? And he like,
That's right.
oh, he has one person he gets to kick down on.
Imagine Kyle's life.
Yo, God.
Yeah.
Horrifying.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, he's married to Cindy Crawford.
Yeah, there were times, one time in particular with Chris, I remember you were like, I don't know if I want to do this, because it was such a Jerry slam, and let's face it, people love him. And you were like feeling bad, because the man has like this huge heart, which you really should get looked at, because I'm sure there's some sort of, but do you remember that? And you were like, I don't know. I was like, it's fun, just paycheck's the same, it's all good.
I do remember that.
Now, you guys would always do a thing called the fun take. You would do the scene a few times.
Fun run.
Fun run.
Fun run.
Fun
And was that from the get-go you would do the fun runs?
Yeah, right from the beginning. The idea was always, you block out a certain amount of time to shoot any scene, and we shot the show in such a simple way. It was 2 cameras, what's called cross coverage, which means you're shooting everybody. Everybody's on camera all the time instead of only shooting in one direction, so someone's got their back to the camera and isn't really in the scene. And the idea was always the last 5 minutes is like, you tried to finish the take with the scene with 5 minutes left, and then you would say, do whatever. And it led, like, usually it was a mess.
It was usually filthy.
Yeah, it was usually super filthy. A lot of blooper reel stuff came from it. But yeah, that was always the goal, was to reserve 5 minutes for the actors to just do whatever they want. And sometimes, like, things happen that we would go, oh, wait, let's use that. And we would do another full take of the scene with a new line or a new joke or something.
I tried to bring that technique to the next series I did. I went and did a CBS procedural called Code Black. And I was like, guys, we should do a fun run. This man's heart is dying. He's pronounced dead at 7:31 p.m. Ah! They didn't work at all. Just didn't translate somehow.
It's not for every show, yeah.
It's not for every show, as it turns out.
But how many iconic, memorable moments came from the fun runs, though, that where you were actually surprised that, oh, this is now part of the show, or...
Stop Pooping was fun run.
Yeah,
really?
right.
That was fun run.
I would say, I feel like anytime we all get together, I feel like I need to tell the story. It wasn't actually in the fun run. The other thing we did was we would say to the actors, like, there are certain jokes where it's like, this is what we're writing, but, like, do something different every time. And, like, with Aziz, it would be like, we'd write a reference to some rapper or something, and it was just a signal to him of, like, this, you got this, man. Change this every time if you want to. But in one of those moments, Chris Pratt improvised the greatest joke that we ever told. I have to tell the story, even though it deeply bums me out because I'm a writer and I should be able to write things that are as good as this, but I have never accomplished that. But it was when Leslie had the flu and Adam was leading her out of the office, and Norm Hiscock, who was on the set at the time, said to Chris, just, you know, as we're walking by, you say whatever you want. And the storyline was that Andy was filling in as Ron's assistant, and Ron liked that because Andy was so deeply incompetent that nothing was getting done. And so they passed by him, and Leslie has the flu, and she's miserable, and she's bundled up. And as she's walking by, Chris says, "Hey, Leslie, I typed your symptoms into the computer here, and it says you might have network connectivity problems." It really.
And now he's a movie star.
Yeah, and then he got Jurassic World, and those two things are directly related.
Now,
oh wait, before we do that, can you tell the story of the thing that you shot when you were backstage? Remember, we did these like videos where you were backstage at the show, and you made a joke. It's the This is the crazy story to come out of the show.
This is pretty crazy.
It's not crazy, it's the secret. You can manifest anything.
Yeah. Okay. It kind of is true.
It is, it's the secret.
Okay, so this is, wow, I'm gonna really date myself in the show. It was kind of before iPhones. They had this thing called a flip video.
Right.
Oh. And remember, it was like the camera function from your iPhone, but in a separate handheld device, kids. Someone came up to me and they said, "Chris, will you do some behind the scenes for Parks and Rec's website?" Which is to say, everyone here said no to this task.
I did it.
And so it got to me, and I was like, "Great, that sounds good." And I was making a video in my trailer. I'm covered in dirt, and I was just kind of improvising this bit, and I, as I was making the phone, I got a real text from whomever at the time, and it beeped, and you could hear it in the video, and I said, "Oh, just getting texted by," and this is 4 years before I got Jurassic World, maybe even 6 years or something, and I said, and you can watch this video online. If you watch it online, it's gonna be a lot cooler than this story, but I'm like, I will continue. And I basically said, "Oh, it's Steven Spielberg. Here we go." Because at the time, that was fucking insane that he would know me or give me a job. And I said, I'll have to I'm in the process of doing Parks and Rec, and I'm doing this behind the scenes video, and I'll get back to you about Jurassic Park 4. And I hit send. And then like 5 years later, I was in Jurassic Park.
wow. My God. This show did predict things. Now, then, you know, all the fun run stuff, all the great, you know, comedic moments, but then there were really, really amazing, heartfelt moments, not just heartfelt moments, but serious oh, I should maybe rethink my life moments. The one that was the most surreal for me, I remember watching this, it's the episode where John Larroquette guest starred. And
Valentine's Day.
Valentine, yeah. And it's Leslie was dating Justin Theroux's character, and there's that whole thing where he's going to reunite Leslie's mom with this boy that's the John Larroquette character, and it's a huge disaster. And Justin's saying, "Oh my God, it was so hilarious, how awful that was, and what a great story." And Leslie starts to realize this guy's kind of shitty, like he's not that good. And out of nowhere, Leslie and Ron Swanson have one of the deepest conversations at that, where he goes, he's a tourist. He's just here for the story. He doesn't care what he wrecks. And it was such an, like, do you know when you're writing a scene like that, like how do you fit that? Because then you go back into the comedy, and also comedy is leading up to that moment. Is it a struggle because it felt so natural and real. It did not feel like, oh, we're grinding the gears to get to this moment. It totally followed where the characters were going, and it was pretty stunning to watch.
Well, that was part of the design of the show, honestly. And this came from Greg Daniels at The Office, is like, he was like, look, it's not easy to do this because it feels like sincerity and honesty and gooiness is like the opposite of coolness, you know? And Greg was always like, we're gonna take a chunk of time in every episode of The Office, and we're gonna just carve it out and say, like, there aren't gonna be jokes here. There's gonna be some kind of like sincere, emotional thing going on between the characters. And it's hard to do because it feels like gooey. It feels like, are people gonna think I'm not cool if we write this stuff? But it was so, obviously for that show, it was like, that's why people still watch that show. Like people still watch Friends for Ross and Rachel, and they still watch The Office for Jim and Pam. And so from the beginning, that was just the design of it. We did a lot of it with Leslie and Ann. A lot of the show, yeah. Like, the show was like, Greg and I pitched this show as a show about female friendship, about Leslie and Ann. That was the core of the show. That's why the pilot is about them meeting. And I think the saddest I ever got on the set was the episode where Chris and Ann were leaving and moving away, in part because it was the end of an era, and also because Rashida and Amy were very good friends in real life, and Rashida was going off to take this crazy, excellent job writing Toy Story 4, which was really cool. It was all like, yeah. It was all happy and great, but like the scene, when you look at that, if you look at that take that's in the episode, it's just two really good friends saying goodbye to each other, and they're happy and they're crying, and it's just like, let's not overwrite this. Let's not try to put a spin on this. Let's just have these two women like have this nice scene together, and it's devastating. I mean, that was the saddest I ever got, saying goodbye to you, Sheeta. You, I didn't care about so much.
Well, that was going to be my next question for Amy and Rashida. That was one of the best depictions of a real friendship, in that they are not completely in sync and agreement on everything, but they love each other so much that the stuff that they're never going to agree on actually enhances the friendship. Were you guys careful to, make sure that it wasn't just this perfectly connected two puzzle pieces, it was actual people that are going to disagree on stuff and have real fights and then real makeups and stuff?
Well, yes, as Mike said, there's a Venn diagram of real person and character, and because Amy and I are very close and been friends for a while, I think it really helped to inform and shape that relationship, but also things like Leslie thinking Ann is the best, most smartest, most beautiful, whatever, naive, rule-breaking moth that she thinks I am. There's something that's so tender and sweet about that to me, because in some regards, like, Ann's just like, she's all right. She's cool. She's good. She's doing her best. But Leslie just fucking loves her so much, and she just bolsters her as a human being so much. And to me, like, that is the core, like, all of my girlfriends, and we talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
That's how we interact with each other. Like, that's how we actually interact instead of, these two kind of catty, diametrically opposed women. Most girls have friends that are like, that's awesome, you're great. Like, how can I help you? How can I support your life and make you a better person? Or what can we talk about to make you feel better about your own life? So I was so, that to me, like, that was something that I was so happy to play, because there's really not that much opportunity to do that. There's not that much like this on TV.
And I just want to say, if I ever hear you talk about Anne like that,
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I know.
she's perfect. Anne's perfect.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I think, I'll say this, I think possibly I think the best episode we ever did may have been the one that Amy wrote in season 3 called The Fight.
Oh my God.
First of all, the B story of that episode is snake juice. and all the talking head tower of everybody drunk, which was almost all improv, including Adam Scott just saying "Baba Booey." But the pitch for that episode was Leslie didn't have their first fight. That was it. That was the whole story. And Amy and Rashida went into the bathroom of the terrible club we were at in Hollywood, very close to where we are right now. And they just lived in a fight between those two characters, and we just chopped up chunks of it. They were almost entirely improvising, right? I think, Polar?
I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember but I remember just loving doing that scene and that day, and it was such a. Oh, that was such a fun episode.
Just ripping into each other, and then when we just stitched together chunks of that's like the realest moments I think that we ever shot on the show, because it was just the two of you being like, this is what would happen if we fought. It wasn't calculatedly writing down and trying to move the plot forward. It was just these two women who love each other and care about each other are just really drunk and are just tearing each other. And then you're talking, and it's so funny because you're like, I didn't even do one thing. I did one thing. You're just saying the word one over and over again.
Yeah.
But my favorite was coming back the next morning, and Anne is fucking so hungover.
Yeah.
And I was like, Rashida is my fucking comedy queen, because it was my favorite thing in the show.
You were wearing a sweater backwards, right?
With a tag.
Yeah.
And it also should be noted that episode had Ron Swanson dancing in a tiny hat.
Which, by the way, the GIF of that is my most received GIF when one of my friends is happy about something. They'll send me that of him just dancing there's a Deadwood movie. That's the GIF that I get. And they're all just dancing and happy. I got that GIF twice today because of the Deadwood trailer.
There's no accounting for taste. Amy also directed that episode, and the whole... And she cleverly, brilliantly set up this contest, because the best thing working on the show was, if you have Amy at the monitor, is to make Amy laugh.
Right.
And so she set up a contest where everyone got a turn to try and crack up Amy. And that's where all of those came from. Where I was like, check this out. Wait a minute. Aubrey, give me your hat.
It was April's hat. Yeah. Or Janet's snake hole, excuse me.
That's right. That's right. The C story of that episode is Burt Macklin and Janet Snakehole. Yeah. That was a winner.
Now, speaking of heartfelt and amazing, the relationship between Adam Scott and Amy Poehler's characters is just it's two political wonky nerds who have found each other, and they are so unabashed in how much they love each other. And the proposal scene was, I remember reading the the Onion AV Club did. They did it, you know, they would do the recaps of the show, and then they did a whole other article just about the scene where he proposes and how you went, oh, but yes, of course, like it's so real and emotional. Like how many takes was that? How many? I mean, it felt real.
I was sweating on that. I was so nervous that
Yeah.
day. You were too. We were nervous.
It was a big deal.
Yeah.
And we were like not really hanging out
we weren't
on set.
talking.
We were
Yeah.
like staying away from each other. And it was a big deal because I remember the hiatus before that season, Amy and I talking over the summer about Ben and Leslie like their people and talking about like how we wanted them to get married.
Yeah.
We cared about them so much and it's really sweet. And then I remember hearing that Mike, you told me Mike was writing a proposal scene and it was just the happiest moment.
It was. Mike called me and said, oh, I just wrote Ben and Leslie's proposal scene. And then I said, Adam, Ben and Leslie are getting married. And we were like, woo!
You think you're nerds for the show. Oh my God.
You know what's so cool is even now, like all you young people who are just finding the show long after it's I just had a woman today I was working with to say, I remember I was in college and me and my boyfriend were watching the show and Ben proposed to Leslie and it was Hurricane Sandy, during Hurricane Sandy and we were inside, the weather was really bad and we watched that proposal, and I'm like, oh, what happened to you two? She's like, oh, we're not together. I was in college.
I just was.
That's sweet.
I was just now thinking.
It's a nice story.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I wonder what the experience is going to be for people who, especially as you said, this younger generation coming up, a lot of whom have experienced a huge chunk of this show in GIFs on Twitter or from like out of context, but and by the way, all of which are very, very illustrative and do the job in nailing emotional moments. But then if they go back and actually sit and watch the show and see how they all, I wonder what that experience would be like for someone that young to see that. And because it is, it's so, oh God, I'm not making any sense. It's so universal how, all like I remember when Ben Wyatt, I really related to everyone loved little Sebastian except Ben Wyatt. Because I've been there where everyone's freaking out and I have to go, I better not tell, I don't know what is going on, I don't know why. And that is such a real, and especially now, I think that is a very, very real experience. I think a lot of people have to deal with. You know, that was so real. It was funny, but it was very real.
I still don't get it.
Don't people still memorialize Little Sebastian? There's a day on on Twitter, suddenly I'll see Little Sebastian is trending.
Yeah. Yeah. That Little Sebastian lived on past the show.
Yeah.
It was one of the things. I should also, I want to shout out director Dean Holland, who directed like 30 episodes. Dean became, I was thinking about it just because you were talking about the proposal, and the show had this weird thing where like we had these really strict rules. It's supposed to be a documentary, and the cameras are supposed to, the actors are playing real people who are aware of the cameras. And then from time to time, we would just go, no, it needs to look good, so change all the rules. And like that scene, that proposal scene, Dean just did this really beautiful job of like just moving the camera sort of in this sweeping way. He hung back for the proposal, then he would sweep the cameras in when they kissed. We gave Dean all of the big important episodes that we needed, like something really special. He was a very big part of the show. I'm talking about him like he's dead. He's not dead. He's fine.
Just busy.
Dead to us.
R.I.P. Dean. He's probably here. Is Dean here? I don't know if he's here.
I just got a text. He is dead.
Come on, Jim.
Fuck you. Just got the text.
Who? Jim, who texted you?
What? I know a lot of people, Mike. A lot of people.
By the way, Jim, I remember I flew from New York to LA and you sat behind me the whole time and I didn't realize you were there until we landed. And it was such a damn it, Jerry moment. It was so, perfect. And then I think I posted a picture of us on Twitter, and everyone just started going, "Damn it, Jerry!" Like right
Exactly.
there. How did he miss
Yeah.
you?
I hear "Damn it, Jerry" all day, every day.
Not as much as I hear Ann Perkins.
Do you? Okay, yeah. I hear "Thanks for ruining the Harvest Festival." Which he did. I did not. It was Tom.
I remember we were at it was really fun once we started. There was this moment when the show where we were like, oh, we might not get canceled. And also, we got nominated for stuff, so we got to go to the Emmys. It was like really fun to hang out. And I remember we were at an Emmys party, and they had like a photo booth, and we took a picture or something. And Jim had the photo in his that kind of holder. And he was like, "You guys," he walks up to us. He's like, "I just got the best picture of us." And he goes, "Oh, damn it!" And it just had fallen out of the. Paper holder just in a fancy party. And he went to go look for it. It was everybody makes mistakes, but Jim, you have given us the greatest gift when you do make them in life. It's so
Have any of you ever visited Indiana? You've been there. You've been to the town. And
You're up there.
I got us. I mean, right? I got us into the Colts.
Oh,
thing,
that's
didn't
right.
I?
Yes, we shot in Indiana like 2 or 3 times. Yeah. Yes, we went to Indianapolis at least twice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went to Indiana University, and they have murals. Yeah, it was so cool, but they have murals that are terrifyingly similar to the murals in City Hall, where I was like, this is allowed? This is not okay.
Yeah.
Like, what is this?
There is some stuff on those murals that did not get shown for a very specific reason. There was some, I mean, the thing of the slaughter being covered up, there's some way darker, maybe this shouldn't be up here, or I remember how amazing that stuff was. Where are those murals? Did they just get tossed, or do you know where they are?
Well, they were enormous. They were like 10 feet tall and like 20 feet long, and so there was no place to put them. I mean, the day after the show ended, literally the day after the show ended, I was editing, and Morgan Sackett, our longtime producer and director,
Morgan.
He came into my office and he was like, "Hey, they're bulldozing the set. Do you want to go down and watch?"
Oh.
And I was like,
Oh.
"No, no, I absolutely don't. That's horrifying." Most of that, I mean, most of the set was just that's what they do. They move on. It's a heartless business. But this bears mentioning. Nick Offerman, without telling anyone, salvaged all of the doors in the set. We had these big oak doors. He took all the wood from all the doors and he made us canoe paddles.
Oh my!
That have the seal of Pawnee on them. Oh. So they're beautiful.
That's beautiful.
It was one day, like a year later, I just got a canoe paddle. This is from a door on the set. Like, all right, thanks.
Perfectly good red oak, I mean.
Yeah. Now, I have never, again, just today, HBO announced the Deadwood movie is going to be on May 31st. If ever a show was rich enough to support an actual narrative film be made of it, it's this world. Like, it's this show. But it's very, very weird because in your final episode, you flashed forward and showed where everyone kind of ends up, but you flashed like forward into the further future, a couple of years down the road, especially these very. I love that you got comedy out of characters being positive and trying to be helpful to one another. So those characters having to live in these times would be very, very interesting and I think funny. I don't know, but if you guys made a Parks and Rec movie, my God, I think it would be amazing.
I think that, in the world that we live in now, nothing is ever gone. Everything comes back and is cycled through again. And, you know, I would only say that I think we would just everyone on this stage, and like 6 other people, would have to feel like there was a story that needed to be told. Like there was, and part of what I felt personally, I won't speak for anybody else, but what I felt was the show had an argument to make, and the argument was about teamwork and friendship and positivity and being an optimist and not getting cynical and believing that people can do good and believing in the power of public service and believing that if you work hard and you put your head down and you have good people around you who are part of your team, that good things are possible and you'll achieve the things that you want to achieve. And I don't feel like we left anything on the table, really. Like, I feel like the show sort of made its argument. And we also, and maybe this was like a preventative measure or something, we did jump like into the year like 2074.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, we see like Jerry's funeral, he died at the age of 100. Peacefully in his sleep with holding the hand of his wife, Christy Brinkley, who looked exactly the same.
Exactly.
Yeah, she looks
She said to me, "Oh, look, they gave me little wrinkles. I'm looking like a corpse. little tiny little lines."
So, I mean, there was nothing I loved more than working on this show. It feels like, it felt like the most important thing that I would ever do. And so I would never, ever say never. I mean, the chance to do it again, should it arise, would be incredible. But I think we would only do it if we all felt like there was something compelling us to do it. I don't want to do it just to like, as tempting as it is, I don't want to just like make more episodes of the show or something. I want to, if we all, literally, I would do it like everyone on this stage has a veto. Why is everyone staring at me? I would say that we would do it in literally everybody has a veto. Like if one single person says no, then whatever it is, we wouldn't do it. I feel so weird right now.
But can I just say something? Because we get asked this quite a bit because reboots have become quite fashionable.
Yeah, right.
And my new answer is, because of what Mike just said, that's why the show was so good in the first place.
Yeah. Now I want to go down the line starting with Rob. Is there a aspect of your character's personality that since the show you have kind of carried into your life and use in your life now?
Yeah, I think I'm going to live to 150.
Oh, okay. You're a computer chip.
Yeah, I am the microchip.
Microchip.
Yes.
Yeah. Retta?
I mean, the obvious one is treat yourself. Yeah, I'm an online shopper, and I will spend money at any moment. any moment. But friendships are very, very important to me, and I feel like that's exactly what the show is about. So, but I mean, I feel like they were important to me before, but if anything mirrors my Parks life, that would be it.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't, when the first time Ben Wyatt talked about Game of Thrones, I actually hadn't seen it.
That's the kind of actor Adam is he?
Seriously, go
Is that good?
back and watch those episodes. You can't tell that I haven't seen the show. I don't want to brag, but it's not a big deal. But then after mentioning it a couple times on the show, I started watching it and could not be more into Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
You also create a coach.
Kind of conversely, after the show, I cleaned up my diet. There were some habits I had to get rid of in the interest of longevity, but there was one inexorable force in the whole world of the show that I resisted as best I could. And finally realized that I had to simply give in to the powers of Tammy 2.
Amy?
You know, the other day, a couple weeks ago, the teachers were striking here in LA, and I'm the daughter of 2 public school teachers, and I drove past the teachers striking, and I honked horn in support as they were asking us to do with signs, and a woman was holding a Leslie Knope sign, and I honked at her, and she was like, "Hey!" And I was like, "Hey!" And then I went, "Hey!" And we both were like, and it was just a great example of how that character has gone on to represent so many things that are, I think, far and above what we would have ever imagined it to be. And so, Leslie was really, really good for my mental health, for my physical and mental health. She really, playing her, getting to come in and tell everybody how great they were, and also get to boss everybody around. The combination of those 2 things was like, it really, really did extend my life, I think. It really did. I really think it did. So,
yeah. Well, obviously, Anne and Leslie forever.
Always.
That will outlive the show completely. But I think also Ann Perkins kind of went in the direction of positivity. I mean, picking Chris Traeger as a partner, and she always kind of tries her best to make things okay, even if they're not okay, and a lot of times they weren't okay. I mean, she basically dated her way through the town just to make things okay. And I feel like, not particularly in that way, but in other ways, I would like to think that I, as a person, have embodied some of Anne's, adaptability in the world, and ability to continue to be positive, even in the face of some gnarly shit. But also Anne and Leslie.
When Mike described just kind of the mission of the show and the ideas of teamwork and working hard and staying positive and just kind of in the face of negativity, just kind of putting your head down and doing the work, it just made me realize like how much I internalize those ideas in my life after Parks. And you work on a lot of different sets, and we've all moved on and done different things. And me and Alan, one of the writers from Parks, we went on to do our show, and we really tried to capture. Oh, thank you. But we really tried to capture what we took from Parks' experience. And it's really true. If you follow those things, you can make great work with great people and have a wonderful time in your life and make something you're proud of. And so I thank Mike for that, and I thank all of these people for influencing me in that way.
Yeah. I think that this show, there's 3 things. 1, rollerblading. I was just thinking the other day, I was like, I need to rollerblade again. Like I saw these guys rollerblading on down in Santa Monica. I was so jealous. I was like, oh, I wish I had my blades out. But that's not the biggest thing, but that's one thing. A second thing is my relationship with the FBI in real life is legit.
Wow.
They are. I think maybe even especially now, I think they're just really happy to have someone in the zeitgeist who's like, I love the FBI. I want to be in the FBI. Like, I'll go to a city and I'll go in a hotel room and the FBI will have put together a care package and leave me a care package in my hotel room. I don't know how they got in there, the FBI. They're the FBI. I think it's the FBI. But FBI has stuff, hats and cups and stuff, FBI stuff. Like, not like the stuff that they use, but it has their logo and stuff on it. They might use it, but that's number 2. And then the third thing is there's a technical thing actually, like doing a show that's a multi-camera show that's constantly rolling and it's digital. You learn the value of freshness. You learn the value of making every take slightly different. So as an actor moving forward, I've really learned that. And I feel like it was something that it was a really good format for me when I was first starting out on the show. Like I had some experience, but not that much experience, and it really catered to my strengths, I think, as an actor. And I take that with me now in every job. Like, you know, I feel completely comfortable colloquializing and making the dialogue my own, and I really learned that and honed that in this very specific format because you can't do that anywhere else. And it's can be a bummer for people like editors and stuff. They hate it because they're like, I can't cut this together. You said 9 different things. None of it's on story. You fucking wasted everyone's time. But I'm like, I'm too big to fire. So. Yeah.
Can I also just say it was pretty cool for a moment. We got to see what it'd be like to see Eddie Dwyer use the word colloquially live.
I don't think I got it right. Did I say it right?
Oh, man.
Well, I've never felt like April and me had too many similarities. But I feel like I have done some things that she would be proud of recently. I did a satanic ritual on live television for the Independent Spirit Awards.
So bad.
I think she would have liked that. And
Dark arts.
I also convinced Jim to do a video on that show where he had to say that he had to suck him.
Wait, what?
And he didn't even question it at all. I literally was in the writer's room going like, I gotta find someone to do this video. And I texted him and said like, I'm gonna need you to do this video and I'm gonna send you the monologue and you have to memorize it in 2 days and we're shooting it. And he just went, anything for you, Aubrey. And then he did it on live television. And it was just so nice of you.
Oh, my God.
Well, you made out with me on national television, so that was a good. Yeah, this is true.
So I don't know, the dark arts I carry with me, and I think just April's general philosophy in life, which is that nothing matters and we're all gonna die. So who cares about anything at all?
Whew. In my case, you know, life and art kind of combined. The episode where the doctor said I had the largest penis than he had ever seen. So.
No. No, Jerry. No.
You know I have no pride, come on. No, but seriously, Jerry is like, you know, such a sweet guy. And there is a little bit of, you know, in my life where I will think, you know, WWJD, what would Jerry do? And I mean that because Jim O'Hare can be a little bit of a hothead here and there. And I do try to think about that. I've done, you know, you go to colleges and they do Q&As and stuff, and a lot of times they'll go, oh, you weren't as nice as I thought you'd be. Well, number one, fuck you. And, I mean.
Just say for the record, fuck those people.
Exactly. But I think Jerry, you know, if the world were a lot of Jerrys, it would be a sweeter place and a much more shit falling all over place, too. Yeah.
The Shamizel and the Shimano.
That's so sweet. Mike.
Oh, hey.
You made such an amazing show. I cannot be a bigger stand for this show and this universe and these people. I don't know. I mean, there's all these. I don't want to just sit here and fire all the nerd questions at you guys. And like, I want to talk about the cones of. Did you? There's like people in the T-shirts. I saw like 2 different people. Did someone developed? Didn't someone reverse engineer the game just from watching the episode or something?
They did, and then they never actually ended up getting it all
A group of
together.
professional board game makers did make a version of Cones of Dunshire just for us. Yeah, yeah. I always feel like I have to tell this story too. Dave King, one of the writers, was the guy who wrote that episode, and he's a board game enthusiast. And a woman named Julianne Robinson was directing it, and I got so excited about the Cones of Dunshire, which was just like our cold open. It didn't really factor into the rest. It was about how Ben was losing his mind, and he was like making. And as a joke, but also kind of seriously, when we sat down to talk about the episode, I said, Julianne, I don't know you very well. This is the single most important thing we've ever done on the show. And I was kidding, but I don't think she totally knew I was kidding. And so I got into work one day and they were shooting that scene, and I got a note that said, Amy wants you to come to set. And I went to the set and I was like, hey, what's going on? And she was like, we've been shooting this fucking scene for like 4 hours. Like, I don't know what's going on, but like we can't. And Julianne was like nervously like, I need to make sure I get this right because it was, and I was like, oh no, I'm sorry, this is nonsense. I'm sorry. This is not.
Julianne would come up and go, just to remind you, these cones, so when you move to the right, and I was like, what? I have to know the rules?
Yeah.
Yeah, she was
It was 100% on me, but it turned out really good.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's like the philosophy of the show in a nutshell, right there. That's it. You know what? That is a perfect place to end, ladies and gentlemen. The cast of Parks and Recreation. Thank you guys so much.